Welcome back to the Barrel Talk Podcast. We are back with another episode. Joined with Cole here on the pod. It is a beautiful month of basketball that we are in. And this is going to be an episode that we are going to be breaking down our first official big board on the channel. This is going to be part one of a two-part thing. So this is going to be basically picks in terms of players. We're going 1 to 25. This episode is going to be 25 to 15. And then our part one will be 14 to 1. So it'll be a two-part episode for you guys here on the channel. But before we get into that, just wanted to kind of shout this out here on the pod, on the episode, is just like last year, just like the year before last year, we are going to be doing our bracket challenge once again for a free NBA jersey of your choosing. You'll see all the clips out there on our socials, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all that good stuff as well. So be on the lookout on Selection Sunday. As soon as Selection Sunday is wrapped up, those clips will be posted and the brackets will be available to be made. And you can enter our bracket challenge for absolutely free. The winner gets a free NBA jersey of their choosing. Like I said, just wanted to kind of put that out there before we get into the episode. That will all be live on Sunday as well. And we'll also Monday morning have kind of a joint. Cole's going to have his own bracket. I'm going to have my own bracket as well for the challenge. But we're going to take after Selection Sunday, right after it, pretty much dive in and do like a joint bracket and kind of go back and forth on some of the picks, just have some fun making a bracket together and kind of calling it just the Barrel Talk Podcast bracket of a joint and me and Cole making a bracket together. And then kind of just going over the bracket, going over the matchups and everything else like that. So that is what you guys have looking forward to on Monday morning. And make sure to tune into the bracket challenge as well, that we will be posting everywhere on socials. But Cole, how we doing before we get into it?
Good, bro. College basketball is firing right now. That's what we like to hear. Like you said, the brackets this weekend. We get the bracket this weekend. It's a special time. I've been cranking a lot of college basketball. I'm repping the Hawkeyes. I'm not necessarily a Hawkeye basketball fan, but they picked up the win today. Big Ten tournament, first round. If you're watching this, it was Wednesday morning game. Hawks got the dub. Shout out to them. Ben Sturt's a guy we are probably going to talk about either this video or next for sure for the Hawks. So, yeah, I'm pumped about college basketball.
And I just got done watching Mikal Brown not on the floor, but Louisville just picked up a win as well in the ACC tournament.
Did they? I had missed that game.
SMU.
I was in class. SMU.
Yeah.
Nice.
It was a close one. So they're going to move on. But this is like you kind of said before we started recording, like for us being in the Midwest, those West Coast games, you could be up till 1 a.m. watching college hoops. It's absolutely crazy.
I think it's important that I bring this up right now while it's fresh in my mind, and it happened last night. I think there's a few things that we do need to say real quick. I know it's not the point of the video, but last night, first of all, I'm not even going to bring up the NBA one yet, but AJ DeBansa, someone we'll talk about in this series for sure. We'll get to it. But he just had 40 points last night in his conference tournament debut. I mean, how many examples of this freshman class being the best one of all time do we need to see for it not to just be like, case closed, best freshman class of all time? And maybe it is that. Maybe no one disagrees on that. But the amount of 40-point games we've been getting from these freshmen. I mean, we're going to talk about it with a ton of these guys. There's Darius Acuff, big-time game. Keaton Wagler, Mikal Brown, Darren Peterson has a ton of big games. Cam Boozer's doing it every night, and then DeBansa just has 40. This class is unbelievable. It's definitely important that we address this, our big boards for this year, because this is going to be a special draft.
Exactly. And then you were going to get into the Bam Adebayo stuff.
I was going to bring that up. I don't even know if I want to do all that right now, but shit, bro. We low-key have to discuss it. Because we're talking college basketball, 83 but that is crazy. The most recent. It just happened last night.
Yeah.
Are you on the hating side of this, or are you more just let's just celebrate it?
I'm not. I think we should just celebrate it. People are worried about the free throws and everything else like that, but I think the big thing to look back on is Kobe's 81 was against a trash Raptors team. Wilt's 100 was against a trash New York Knicks team, if I'm not mistaken. No half decent team is allowing 80 points in a game. That's why it's so hard to do.
Bro.
And I'm just sitting here. One thing that I did want to compare it to is, one, when I was just woke up and I saw all the hate, I was just wow, the NBA just fandom wise is in such a weird, bad spot to where it's we're just hating somebody who got 83 because of how he got it. it's 83. Now, if he got 40 points off 35 free throws, then that's a whole different discussion. But half of his points came from the line, and if you watched all the fouls, they just couldn't handle him. Like that, like he was just Bam is a physical player. It's not like he was like getting fouled out of nowhere. Like some of the fouls in the back end in the last like 2-3 minutes of the game, understandable. You could look at that differently, but throughout the game, like he had a legit 30 ball in the first quarter. Like all
Bro,
good buckets. Like he was hooping. So the hate on the foul calling and stuff in the game that I think people should look at is when Luka had his 70 and he didn't have nearly as many free throws. Go watch the defense that was played in that game on Luka Doncic. There were like he was walking to the basket. And I think
Stephen A. Smith loved to call that shit out, and then you know what I'm saying. He was hating. He was hating back then, and he was loving it now. So that happens every time someone has a shit ton of points. Keep going, yeah. Stephen A. switched. Sorry to interrupt, but Stephen A. He like switches how he's talking about Luka versus Bam, and people are posting about that shit.
I think the Wizards are trash. I understand the free throws and everything else like that, but for like a big man that in Bam, who's not known as a floor spacing big, who's not this knockdown 3-point shooter, yeah, the percentages weren't there, but at the end of the day, this wasn't somebody who's like known for knocking down 5-6 threes a game. Like he hit 7 of them, if I'm not mistaken. And it's just like, dude, like there's so much hate around the Bam Adebayo situation to where it's kind of like exhausting. It's like, what are we hating for? I'd damn near be mad if I got to 77 points and my teammates started ball hogging or doing fuck shit. Like the record was right there once he and you know what? Credit to Spo. Credit to Spo.
Hell yeah.
Because I remember a couple years ago when Steph Curry had his 60. And there's been plenty of times where Curry, for example, has just had like these heater games where he gets into the fees and he's touched 60 before, and then there'll be so much time left in the game and Steve Kerr will pull him and not even allow him to try. And I think a lot of coaches are like that in the league to where like they'll just pull their guys. Credit to Coach Spo and just leaving Bam out there to get the record, because realistically, if it wasn't going to happen last night in that situation, I don't know if it was ever going to happen. Like most coaches will just pull their guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's a lot of credit to him.
I'm with you too. I feel like, bro, sometimes some people just shouldn't be sports fans. Like, bro, this day, like nowadays with a lot of the sports fans, like even kids, like dudes I'm like really good friends with, like some people just should not be sports fans with how they they don't actually care about sports for real. They just like it's like just viral to like get off a crazy hate tweet or something. So I do get that side of it because that shit is funny. Like you can make really banger tweets out of like some of the shit that happened last night with that. Like it's funny, but also like you said, it's March 7th, NBA season. No one. It's like the dog days of NBA season. Who gives a fuck if he goes and gets 80? That's fucking sick that someone would go beat a record on a night like a random ass Tuesday night in March of the NBA season. A guy who barely averages 20 points a game goes and gets 83. That's the funniest shit ever. That's awesome.
I think people just view it too much in a serious lens and don't have fun with the certain things.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. I think because everybody that's hating, everybody deep down knows if they touch 70 points, they're looking at 81 and they're going to do anything they can. They're going to chuck shit up.
Yeah.
Bro, there's people out here that like basketball wise aren't even close to playing at the NBA level. They'll start chucking shit up to get a 30 ball. We're talking about 83 fucking points. They'll start chucking shit up to get a 20 piece. Yes, like come on now.
It will be the Wizards,
I just went back and looked at all the fouls. Like somebody on Twitter put together all the fouls and everything else because that was the main thing. I would say about 80-90% of those fouls were like legit foul calls. Like it was him drawing contact. Like so.
Oh, he's big as fuck. No like you gotta foul him sometimes. Yeah. He's big as fuck. Like it's not like a guard that was foul baiting, pump faking, getting guys in the air and foul baiting. He's big as shit. Like you have to try to do your best to stop him. That will foul a lot of time. But anyways, I had to bring that up though, bro. I had to. That shit was fucking crazy.
Yeah, but we can hop into the big board. Starting out 25, going to 15 in this part 1. At 25, I have your guy, Flory Badunga from Kansas. I have the center. This is just, it's funny because his player count for me, and I'll get into that to start, is Clint Capella. Like somebody that can just be a rim running threat. And we never looked at Clint Capella as somebody that can like really space the floor and add that to his game. Flory could do that just with the NBA and where it's trending. But he's the type of guy to get to a team like the Lakers, who I think could use an athletic big that is a really, really good defender and can move his feet and can play make just enough to get by in the pick and roll to where if he does get the dump off and they blitz somebody like Luka or Austin Reeves, he can make the next play. And I have his player comps Clint Capella because he is exactly what teams I think need instead of what teams think they want. Because he is somebody that is coming in with an already NBA level skill set. And I would want to put him higher, but it's just kind of like I'm also viewing it as what are NBA teams thinking. NBA teams want the Jack's floor spacing 7-foot guy that can switch and handle. Like, he's not that. He's going to be somebody that you can dump the ball off to in the pick and roll, somebody that's going to run the floor hard, somebody that's going to be a good on the glass, and is going to be a good rim protector and has the athleticism to be versatile on the defensive end of the floor. And I think bigs like that are shoe-in things, especially I have him mocked to go to the Lakers. I think that would be a perfect fit because they need more of a high-energy guy at the 5 anyways. So I think his player comp is just funny for Clint Capella and the whole DeAndre Ayton Clint Capella stuff. But I think that's kind of the mold he would fit that mold though. Like he would fit that mold on the Lakers.
I think you hit it on the head. I got him a little bit higher, as you probably already could have guessed with me being, loving Kansas as I do. And he's one of my favorite players in the country for all the reasons you said. And I like that you brought up him on the Lakers. Obviously, DeAndre Ayton, I'm not Clint Capella thing is funny because I just think like a guy like Flory Badunga is what every team that is playing that is like in a position where they don't need to they don't have time to maybe. And it's crazy to say this because Flory didn't start playing basketball until he was 18. He's only a sophomore in college and he's still very young. But he's not a guy that you need to get and I think a team could get him and develop him, but I still think his ceiling is kind of where it would be if you just threw him in the fire right now if you're a playoff team. Just being that backup big that's going to come in and not really make any mistakes and only can swing a game and change a game with what he brings as a shot blocker. Obviously just was announced he won Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year. He's number 1 or number 2 probably in the odds for Defensive Player of the Year in the country. Like a guy like that who's played meaningful basketball being a Kansas Jayhawk, he's about to play very meaningful basketball in the tournament coming up here. But I just think you brought up Lakers. There's some times where if you imagine that when DeAndre Ayton said it, everyone started thinking it. If this Lakers team was able to have a guy at the 5 position that could bring a little bit more defense, just for an example, not to get off track here from Flory, it would do some crazy things. And that's why I think Flory needs to be respected as a first-round pick because he can come in and change how a team is depth-wise. Maybe that's already a contender. You bring that type of guy as your backup 5, that's a guy who is going to still be able to make some plays at a big-time level with all the size and athleticism he brings. And he also has some really underrated hands, and him being a lefty, I think, could create some advantages too. But I love the Flory shout.
You can get into who you would have at 25.
Yeah, my 25, honestly, I had to throw some love to Kareem Lopez. He's a big wing. He's probably going to be the only non-college player we talk about, and that's why I had to sneak him in at 25. I really don't know a lot about the guy, but there's no way there's not going to be an international guy that's coming in and bringing something. And I feel like I want to take the risk if I'm a team in the first round, that might be a guy you take the risk on, not knowing that can turn into. That's still a popular trend in the NBA. So even with all the big college guys, I think there could be a team in the late first that just needs a good sized wing with some pro level experience. I think there's still some value to that. So I like Kareem. I've seen his game a few times, have not scouted him at all, watched much tape, but I got Kareem Lopez as my 25. I don't know if you got the shot in this college class pretty stacked.
I'm glad you shouted him because he's not on mine because he's just not somebody I've seen a whole lot of. It's kind of hard to kind of assess that whole thing and feel like you start to learn more about those kind of guys, overseas prospects, more so leading into the draft after the NBA season. I feel like that's when you start to see them at the combine. You start to see them more just through the eyes of different scouts that get eyes on them and everything else like that. I think those guys kind of really flourish at the combine, and that's when you get to really see them for yourself. Getting into my 24, this is kind of going to be a short and sweet one. I have Jaden Quatance out of Kentucky. This is kind of a tough one, obviously, because of the injuries and everything else like that. But he does have the NBA intangibles at the 5, interested to see if he does come out and go into the NBA draft, because this kind of isn't the deepest center pool at the position. So I'm interested to see where he goes with that, or if he does stay at Kentucky or he transfers or something else like of that nature. But from everything I've seen, he's still the real deal. It's just on the court availability is the biggest thing. Can he stay healthy? Like, he really athletic, big, 6'10", 6'11", just has a world of talent waiting. It's just the injuries are the main thing. That's the only weakness I have for him, is just staying on the court. And that's kind of be the reason why he's lower on my board in terms of like mocks, and more mocks would have him, because there is a team that could take a chance on him in the lottery. Like, he's such a tough player to like gauge on where he's at. But with how everything's trending in the league, I think it is kind of a question mark thing when you're already coming into the league, even though you are young, with some pretty
Yeah.
big injury history. So I think that could really make it so he kind of slides in the late mid first if he does come out. But I do see a world where he stays, transfers, gets to a spot, and then like it's a lottery pick and lock next year or something like that with a healthy year.
I was kind of thinking the same thing for him. I had him a little bit higher than you, but mainly just because I think if he does come out, he will go high just because it's very guard heavy at the top. There's going to be teams needing some bigs, and I would take the chance on his, like you said, those NBA tangible, the size. Kind of reminds you of like a Jalen Duren a little bit, especially with the youth he has. He had a big season last year. Coming off an injury is going to be the question for him. But I did have him a little bit higher. My 24 was actually Morez Johnson for Michigan. He's putting up about 14 a game for them. He's a transfer who kind of really has came on like the scene late as a guy you would think about getting like actual draft buzz. I'm not sure if he's going to be a first rounder. Um, Definitely early second, I would say, for him. Especially, I mean, he's playing on a team that's top odds in the nation to win the title. So he's going to be playing some very meaningful basketball here, and could really like in the NCAA tournament make a deep run that could then prop you up to maybe a lottery level player. I don't know. I don't think he's there yet at all, but I wanted to show him some love in my top 25. I think he should be a first round pick if he can produce in the tournament. I had Morez Johnson there.
Yeah, just like to kind of touch on him before I get into my 23, just like the way Michigan plays, like the way they have these physical, athletic, big wings.
So
Like,
much
he's somebody
size.
on the right. Yeah, he's somebody on the right team at legit 6'9", like with his athletic ability and like just his ability to finish around the rim, which is his big kind of thing for me. Like he could find a role. Now it's just like at the NBA level, you kind of gotta have the spacing ability, knock down shots, and be at that 4-3 spot and everything else like that. But inside the paint, like with how they play, like he's somebody that I wouldn't even mind if a contending team took a late first on, because of just his ability and his athletic size at the 6'9".
Yeah.
So I don't even hate that shot at all. I can get into 23 for me, which is Dylan Swan out of Texas. I am
Yeah.
a sucker for just a guy that can come out right away and just defend and be an athletic presence just right away. Now, the shot mechanics is one of the weaknesses that he does have. It's not the smoothest form. It's a really slow shot, especially at the NBA level. But that defensive versatility kind of reminds me a lot of like a Herb Jones, Matisse Thybulle in a way. Maybe not up to the caliber of defender that those two are in the NBA, but somebody that coming out had some question marks about his shooting capabilities. But if he does get the shot down, this is a perfect 3-and-D option. Somebody that can play the 2, 3, or the 4, has the athletic ability to really finish around the rim as well and put the ball on the floor and make plays. It's not like he has no offensive ability at all. It's just the outside shot. I'm worried about the mechanics and the shooting, just speed in general from him, especially on those swing passes to the wing where you got to knock it down with a quick trigger. He just doesn't have that part of his game yet. But the defense and the athleticism that you can throw out there on the wing, and his also abilities to play make and make plays, is something that separates him from like those two NBA guys that I mentioned in Herb Jones and Matisse Thybulle. Is he has a better knack for just like getting downhill and being more creative when he does get the ball in his hands.
I'm a big
It's just
fan
the
of you
outside
bringing.
shot. Outside shot's questionable.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of you bringing him up though, because he's just a damn good college player. He's got incredible size. Not someone I have on my list, but I like that. I mean, when you're putting up good numbers like he is, and you got that type of size and you show those flashes, I think there will be a team that'll take a shot on him. But like you said, maybe for an older guy with jump shot concerns, that's the only reason I could see him falling out of that first round. I'm gonna agree with you there because I think he's a junior, so he's a little bit older, but it's a
Yeah,
really good player. What are we on? Hold
be
on,
your
20.
23.
Okay, yeah. So I had Chris Sinek. I sorry to look back at my list. Chris Sinek to me is a guy that I have been up and down with this year. Earlier in the year, I was a lot more excited about him as a prospect. I think he's got a certain level of talent and size that there could be some NBA teams that could want to take a chance on. But right now, I don't really trust his feel for the game. There's been some times where I just don't like his shot diet, and I feel like it's like, hey, dude, you got all this size. Sometimes you just need to turn your brain off and just be big as fuck. Just go down low and dominate. Houston's a team that struggled to get that rim pressure sometimes. You'll see him settling for jumpers, and I don't know if that's fully I don't know if his game is where it needs to be taking those types of shots. You understand a guy trying to show the NBA scouts he can do it, right? And it's not always a problem when you play on a team like Houston that can kind of back you up in that. But I don't know. He's just not a prospect I fully trust. The only reason I'm coming off negative me right now is because of where I have him. Just might be underrating him to some people, but he's just had some bad games that are alarming. But he's a guy who could really, with the youth and size that he has, if you have a big tournament for Houston, could really put yourself in a different conversation than what we're talking about right now.
I have him a little bit higher, and since we're kind of going back and forth to kind of just for the listeners listening, if I have a pick later on, we'll kind of skip it, and if he brings somebody up or I bring somebody up, we'll kind of talk about that player, and then we'll kind of skip it if we get to the head of to that same player.
Yeah.
Chris Nack, I'm a little bit higher on him, just because, like you said about Quatance, is I think a team's going to take a chance on him with his size, and he does have the ability to space out and shoot threes with the kind of the lack of really dominant and prominent bigs. Really, it's so guard heavy. You could legit go 5 through 13 and pick all guards in this upcoming draft. So I think there is a team that's going to need a big in Chris Nack, who I think he's a weird mix of he's somebody that obviously I'm not going to put him in the same conversation as this player at all, but how Jaren Jackson Jr. is, how we look at Jaren Jackson Jr. as not being this prominent rebounder on the boards and not really being this big physical guy that he probably could be. And he's more of somebody you put at your 4 with his length and size and being able to close out and be help side on defense. I see him more in that role, to where if he went somewhere that is already having an established big that would like to add a little bit more size, I think that's where his best fit's going to be, because he doesn't really have the physicality at this point. Like I said, we're talking about college guys as well. So just kind of nitpicking things, he doesn't have the physicality to really be at your 5. And I think he could be very useful at the 4, because that's kind of just the role he's playing right now at Houston with his ability to kind of just be on the perimeter at his size. So I think it's going to be super interesting. I think he's a big fit guy in where he develops at.
Yeah. I mean, he's big as fuck, I will say. He's big as fuck.
I can get into 22. At 22, I have Isaiah Evans, somebody really skilled shooter, really good abilities to defend. He's on one of those high-profile teams in Duke, to where he's going to be playing in a lot of meaningful games, and he's one of those guys that can kind of teeter between second, back end of the first, but with a really good tournament can really push himself up into the early 20s in this year's draft, because he just has everything you want at the 2 or 3, somebody that can really shoot the ball, somebody that can defend, play make a little bit. I think the perfect comp, he's kind of a little bit of maybe not the caliber of shooter that Jordan Hawkins was, but that's who he kind of reminds me of. Somebody that is just going to play his role on the team. I don't think he's the shooter Jordan Hawkins was coming out of UConn, but I think he kind of fits that role. He's somebody that you put on the wing that can knock down shots, make some plays, come off ball screens, come off down pin. He can do a little bit of everything offensively in the right system. He's somebody, for some reason, I love with the Phoenix Suns and what they're doing over there. Just because he just is somebody that plays hard and has the ability to just make a bunch of different plays on the court. Super versatile. The only knock I will say on him is probably needs to become a better finisher. And I think he needs to put on a little bit more size to really be able to guard some of the 2s and 3s in the world, in the NBA world, if that makes sense. So I think some of the inside finishing abilities you kind of wish he was better at, but shooting, being a knockdown shooter on the wing that can put the ball on the floor and make some plays, I think that's always a valuable skill to have going into the league. And he's on a high profile team. He could have an elite level tournament and we could be looking at him in like early 20s in the draft.
Another thing about him too is coming out of high school, he showed a lot of different ways that he was able to score, and we haven't even seen his full potential. I mean, you got to think he's a sophomore, but he's played next to some high level NBA guys. Last year, Cooper Flag and Con Knipple, and even that whole starting five was NBA. That's why he was coming off the bench last year. Their whole starting five
Mm-hmm.
got drafted last year. Tyrese Proctor, Sion James, Mayuwatch, Khan, and Cooper. They all get drafted. He's coming off the bench. He's shown he can play that role. This year, they got Cameron Boozer, top 3, maybe number 2. Some think number 1 pick, whatever. That's an NBA guy. That's a legit NBA guy that Isaiah Evans is now. He's like playing that number 2, number 3 option next to him. So he's just showing all these NBA front offices that, hey, I can play whatever role you guys need me to do because I can shoot the ball on the floor a little bit. I got size, I got length, I bring energy. I love him as a prospect. I got him a little bit higher than you, but I mean, overall, you hit on the head. I think he can fit anywhere. I'm really in on the idea of Isaiah Evans with multiple teams. I think there's a lot more he has that he hasn't been able to show yet, and I'm higher on him as a prospect. Another guy. A lot of these guys are going to be playing in big time games in March Madness this year, and I'm excited to see it. But for my 22, I had Nate Ament. Another guy I'm a little bit lower on compared to others. Some people think he could be a top 10 pick. I can see it a little bit. He's came on a little bit throughout this year, more than he was at the start. At the start of the year, I honestly thought he was kind of soft, and he played smaller than what his body was, but he has kind of noticeably gotten a little more comfortable, and his shot is coming together. I just can't not see like Zach Ricochet for whatever reason, and it scares me away from him as a prospect. I'll be honest. I'm just not as high on him as a lot of the other guys. I don't really love how Tennessee uses him, but he's got size. He's got some really high potential to be a good shooter as well. So I understand some of the hype, and if he keeps getting better throughout the more games he plays, I can only respect that. But he was at my 22. I just don't really know how to feel about him yet. He's definitely very raw. But man, like, shout out to him though. Like, once again, these are all, in most years, there's not this many freshmen that would be better than a Nate Ament. So maybe because of how elite his class looks this year, it makes me think other ways, because there could be some years where it's like, this guy's one of the best freshmen in the country. So, that's where I'm just not sure about it, but he was my 22.
I'm glad you brought up Ricochet. I kind of see a little bit of like Jabari Smith Jr. as well, which his big knock coming out of Auburn was he didn't have the knack to like really create his own shot. His handle was stiff. He didn't really have the wiggle at his size, but he has the ability to pick and pop and the ability to be a really good rebounder and be a weak side defender. And I think those things in the NBA translate. That's why I'm a little bit higher on him, because I think in the right situation with the right team at his size, he's kind of that jumbo shooter that can just be a spot up guy in the corner that can just be able to play weak side defense. Like, I think that's a big thing on the NBA right now and the where it's trending. But I am a little bit higher on you, but like I also see the comparisons and why we have certain guys comp to him. I think the Ricochet comp is really comparable for sure.
Right, and if you get Ricochet at pick 20, like I have him, then maybe that's a good thing. But, that's maybe where the bad vibes come from.
Now I am at 21. I have Braylon Mullins out of UConn, somebody who had a slow start to the season because of the injuries, kind of had a little bit of a up and down season. He's somebody that with a really good tournament can really rise up some boards. My player count for him is Duncan Robinson, simply because he can flat out shoot the piss out the ball. He's somebody that can run off screens all day long and put the ball on the floor and make some plays. The only thing I worry about him is what the main thing was with Duncan Robinson throughout the years is how he kind of developed his game, because there was a point in time with Miami Duncan Robinson wasn't getting any playing time, but now Duncan Robinson with the Detroit Pistons getting himself back on the NBA floor, he was able to kind of open up his game, put the ball on the floor a little bit more, get to the basket a little bit more, be a little bit more creative in his shot taking, like not just being a catch and shoot guy, somebody that can run off screens and that's kind of your only thing. You kind of got to be able to come off the screen, catch the ball, make a few plays, make a couple dribbles, find the next open guy. Like, that's the next part of Braylon Mullins' game that I think he needs to really tap into. And he's a guy that I think could possibly benefit from staying at UConn just because it's a loaded class. And I think with the slow start to the season, I think if he were to stay, he could be a lottery pick next year. just because he had the ankle injury going in like at the early part of the year, and I think he still has some room to grow as a player. But as a shooter, just talking about the good things that he does provide, I mean, the NBA runs off shooting, and somebody that can run off screens all day long is such a valuable piece in this league, and it can really change the dynamic of a team's offense. And I think that's where he's going to get his knack. And I think he's still somebody that can be taken within the teens for sure. But if he does have a really good tournament with his shooting ability, I think he can rise up some boards. But I kind of see a world where he also ends up staying because he has this kind of weird value right now. If you're just looking on Mox, he's kind of a little bit all over the place. It's either early 20s or somewhere in the teens. Just because, like I said, this is a loaded class kind of at his position to where it's like, but I think he might be the guy that benefits from going in the teens, going to a better team that he's not looked at to be this franchise cornerstone, that he's just looked at to be a role player right away. So I think all those teams that are picking in the teens, I think could really use somebody like Braylon Mullins. But that's kind of just my take, and that's why I have him at 21.
Yeah. Once again, I think you hit it on the head about him. I mean, it's pretty simple with him. Like, just a deadly shooter, just an extremely deadly shooter. Kind of provides a pretty high floor for himself, I think, as a pick. That's where I had him a little bit higher than you, I'd say. Like, honestly, there's some guys I can maybe sell myself on with a higher ceiling than him that I've had below him, sure. But I just believe in Braylon Mullins' floor. I can keep touching on it with the tournament thing. Like, the guy's going to be in big tournament games. UConn, really good team. I think I like Braylon Mullins. He plays with some energy. When I watched him play against Kansas earlier this year, the actions Hurley's able to run for him really like unlocks him and gets him going. And like, I like to see shit like that because you can tell he feeds off it too. Like, I'm a freshman. I'm playing at Allen Fieldhouse. I just hit a big ass three. You're running another play from me. And he like feeds off that type of stuff. And you can only imagine if a guy like him is a team's first round pick, what ways that they're able to kind of get his confidence level high. Because to me, that's how you can really create a really good shooter. And I think he's going to be a guy kind of like that. Maybe you don't need him to get to another level of his game off the dribble. Maybe you just need him to be like an AJ Green who gets in the weight room and gets strong, can guard his yard out there well, and be one of the best, deadliest shooters in the league. So I like him, but I also like you said, like if you're thinking of him being your franchise cornerstone type of guy and getting you 20 something a night off the dribble, I don't know if he has that in him. If he does, holy shit, it's going to be really good. But I think he can really bring a lot of value as just one of those deadly shooters, screen runners in the league. And yeah, like I'm excited for him because he's on UConn. Like Hurley gets me fired up. The shit Hurley runs is amazing, and he's a fucking freak, and it's fun to watch. So Braylon Mullins is gonna be fun to watch in the tournament. Speaking of other guys, gonna be fun to watch in the tournament is my 21 Christian Anderson. Since JT Toppin's injury, Christian Anderson has taken on this like, and they have a good squad. Don't get me wrong, but you can tell he's playing with that. I'm gonna put the team on my back type of mentality. And I don't know, maybe he's one of those guards you need in March. Like you can look at a team like Michigan and they could be the best team on paper with all their size, but sometimes looking at like a Walter Clayton Jr. last year at Florida, or like a Shabazz Napier, Kemba Walker back in the day, you need that 6-game flamethrower guard. And maybe Christian Anderson's got some of that in him. Maybe he's going to go get you 20 and 8 assists and not turn the ball over in the Sweet 16
Right.
and get you that Elite 8. Like, he's maybe that type of guy that could really benefit from a run. And he's just one of those dudes that, to me, like, is just so solid. You're putting up some real elite numbers as a point guard in college to be getting 7-8 assists a game with your workload as a scorer. Even when JT Toppin was playing, he was still getting 17 a game. So, like, don't get it fucked up by him having big performances down the stretch of the season thinking it's because of his new role, because you can watch all year. He was going to get his and get everyone else theirs. He's like a floor general like that too. I'm high on him. But, 6'3", good, solid size point guard, a little bit like not a guy you're maybe drafting to think he's going to come like lock down a big NBA combo guard by any means. But hey, really good college player. He definitely deserves love as a first-round pick. No doubt in my mind he's a first-round.
So I can kind of give my 2 cents and get to my 19 because he is my 20. I agree with everything you just said. His comp for me is somebody like Darius Garland, somebody who might not have this like above the rim crazy high flying ability at the guard spot.
Yeah.
But he's somebody that has a really nice floor game, somebody that's going to operate the pick and roll, pick his spots, get into the mid range, get downhill, make plays for others. Like you said, he's really good at just finding the open man, averaging about 7-8 assists a game. And I do think he is somebody that can also benefit from having a really good tournament because he can kind of be a blessing in disguise of them losing JT Toppin. Then Christian Anderson can also elevate his game and get his draft stock up through a really, really good tournament. Because I do still think they can go a little ways even without JT Toppin. I don't think they're going to be a real threat to win the tournament. But I think Christian Anderson is somebody that is going to be really, really good just in this tournament. And like you say, you brought the point up about him kind of playing with the put my team on my back kind of mentality right now.
Like, he can win you 2 games. He can get you Sweet 16 without Toppin, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless you run into a real deadly team, I think he's a Sweet 16 guy.
And it's kind of like, we'll talk about it on Sunday with like the different brackets. Like, it's also kind of like they could be the team that kind of gets the tough side of their like quadrant or whatever. And then they have to play like a really tough team. So at 19, I have somebody who is older, who might be a little bit of a hot take to have him this high. But I think his size, and he's going to kind of have a funny player comp for me, but his size and just the way he plays the game, I feel like can translate really well to the NBA level, is Joshua Jefferson out of Iowa State, who they just picked up a big win today as well, a blowout win. But his player comp for me, he's like a weird mix of like Nick Batum in a way, because he has this size and ability to knock down shots, but he's like super physical inside. And he's just somebody that I think is just going to be a solid guy that you can just have in your bench rotation. Like, he's ready to go right now with his age and his size and his NBA frame right now. And I think he does have a little bit more stuff to his game, and Iowa State's going to be an interesting team to watch in the tournament. But I think he's just going to have that knock on him as a player because he is older, senior. Like, that's just kind of stuff that NBA scouts will look towards to kind of knock you down on the draft boards towards, like, what's his ceiling. But I think he's somebody that can come in right away and just be a really solid role player. And I think he can have a really good tournament. That's why I kind of have him on my big board where he is. I think he's just such an NBA-ready wing with his size of 6'8", 6'9", and his ability to shoot it. I think it's going to be very good for him in the league, especially if he can stay consistent shooting the ball. His IQ is something that's going to get him on the court. When you have a high IQ player that can space at his size, I think that's just the perfect thing for any role, just kind of role guy in the league.
Yeah, I'll say about him, he's honestly a guy I should have put in my top 25, like around the 24-25 range. I didn't get him on there, so I didn't mention him on mine. But I'll say, I like how you mentioned him with the tournament because he's a guy who Iowa State needs to produce for them to get past over the hump of making an Elite Eight run. So he's going to have to put on display like what he can be because he has the ball in his hands a lot. He's taking a lot of their shots. He's making a lot of decisions for that team. So I think he's going to have to put a lot on display. And, dude, and they beat the fuck out of Arizona State today. Like, it was like 91-42 first round Big 12 tournament. Yeah. So I know it's just Arizona State, but they're not fucking around. Like, I'll tell you right now, he might be my number one guy outside of maybe like a Darren Peterson who could like put himself at like guaranteed number one pick. He's my number one guy who I think could benefit from a Final Four run. If Iowa State makes the Final Four, he's going to have to be really good offensively, and that will guarantee he's a first round pick, guaranteed. Maybe top like 100% to me, even with some bad games he's had down the stretch. So not to ramble about him, but like no, he great size for an NBA. I can see him in a rotation guy too. My 19 staying in the state of Iowa is Bennett Sturts. Bennett Sturts, okay. I love his game. He's a guy I thought would maybe not keep up the production that he had last year at Drake. And he walked into the Big Ten and he's done just that. So big shout out to Bennett Sturts. I got him in there. He's a little bit on the older side. And, you know, he's got everything to his game. He's just on the older side in an already guard-heavy class, I guess is what I was trying to say. So that's why I don't have him higher. But I think there's a lot of years where you're looking at a guy who brings you what he does as a ball handler. I think Bennett Sturts is one of the best guys at navigating the ball screen in the country. He could be a guy who we're talking about being a lottery pick, but with this stat guard class, I got him just inside the top 20, but I like Bennett Sturts.
He's higher on my list, so I'll kind of like go into him when we get to him to kind of wrap up the episode. At 18, I have Heinz Staubach out of Washington. he's somebody that's going to really benefit because of it is a guard heavy class, but his skill set is also reminds me a lot of like Nikola Vucevic, somebody who has the ability to space the floor. Now he might have the ability to kind of put the ball on the floor, just rebound and go kind of play style. But I think he has like all the makings and all the skill, big body down low, really good footwork, and have the ability to pick and pop on the right NBA team. But he's just somebody who I can just see being a backup center for a very long time. Somebody like a Jonas Valanciunas, Nikola Vucevic kind of guy that is just super skilled offensively. Now he might not be this crazy vertical rim protecting threat down low, but I think somebody with his offensive skill, his ability to play make and pass and play on the low block when he needs to, and just be able to really good pick and pop guy, I think, and he moves really well for his size. He's not like some slow-footed big by any means. So he's just a super skilled offensive big. But I think the knock on him is going to be like the defensive side of the ball that might get teams a little bit lower on him because he's not really the greatest defender, especially at the NBA level, getting put in pick and rolls and ball screen actions. Like it's going to kind of be tough for him. But I think off the bench for a team that could use a little bit more size, he reminds me of like that Jonas Valanciunas, Nikola Vucevic, somebody that can space, do a little bit of everything on the offensive side of the ball that gives you a good connecting piece of the five. And that's why I have him at my 18.
I'll say real quick about him because last time we talked about him, I was a lot lower on him than you. I mean, dude, after I tuned into some tape, I liked it. Then they were playing Oregon. I think it was their last regular season game, and he had a fucking horrible first half. He had a terrible first half. I think it was like 4 points, 1 board, and some fouls. That fucker finished that game with like 28 and 14. And I was all the way in, and I have him all the way up at 14. I love the comps you gave, just do it all bigs. I think it'd be interesting to see what a guy like him could do in the NBA after he gets. I mean, he's only a freshman. Another guy who can get to the league, put on some more muscle, get more athletic, and then the sky's the limit for a guy with that amount of size and skill. So I love the shout. I was completely wrong on him from last time we talked about him, dude. I really like that guy. So yeah, my 18 was Isaiah Evans. We already talked about him, so you can go to your 17.
So my 17 is Tandre Yesufu out of Baylor. And we're going to talk about two guys that I think we're going to kind of talk about more their situation with Baylor because Baylor's been super kind of whatever this year. But he has such a mindset to score, and he has such a good athletic body right away to where he's like, whenever you're watching him, whenever he has any sort of size mismatch, he's looking in the post to just get an easy, quick bucket. Like he is somebody that has the size to get downhill, but his game isn't like super polished and all the way there yet. Like I'm going to say his comp, it's Anthony Edwards just because when you're watching him play, it looks Anthony Edwards like with the way he moves and the way he like sets his game up. But he's more of like a Cam Whitmore that has just this big body freight train mindset getting downhill that can just be a rim running threat getting downhill. If he can just polish up the rest of his game, we could be looking at a really good two-way kind of like 2-3 in the NBA. Like he's somebody that if he does get a little bit more polished can kind of give me like a little bit of VJ Edgecombe vibes, a bigger guard coming in right away with just this knack to get downhill and score. But his game just isn't super polished yet. And if he can develop that and work on that at the next level and get in the right situation and the right fit, I think he can do a lot of good things for him. I love him in Memphis because with how they're transitioning into playing that kind of fast-paced, up-tempo style of basketball, and they don't really have a guy there. I'm not saying he's going to be like some franchise cornerstone piece, but he's somebody that could easily come off the bench for a team and just get you a quick go on a like 6-8 point run off straight getting downhill, getting to the foul line, like stuff like that, because he just has the NBA body for that. And I just think him in the right situation is going to really benefit him because he's like a weird mix of like, if I had to say like Cam Whitmore kind of realm, like a little bit of VJ Edgecombe in my eyes, like somewhere in that realm, obviously not as good as those guys in college, but I think those are kind of the mock-ups for him in terms of NBA comps for me. I don't know where you have him at, but I just think he has the athleticism to be a really good scorer off the bench for a team.
You know, I guess you can't look into it too much because last year we saw Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey play together and be on a terrible team. But it really does bother me when you got two Baylor guys that I like as prospects playing together and they're just not good as a team. You can watch Baylor play and these guys will be impressive. They'll score in volume, which is fine for being a underclassmen in college, I guess. But like, they're just not good as teams. Honestly, maybe if Baylor's better and you got this type of talent, we're talking about this guy, being a higher draft pick. But I think you hit it on the head about him. I like the Cam Whitmore comp. I think I said it to you one time about him. Like he's just the type of guy who plays super hard, kind of like just a bucket and knows how to use his athleticism and strength. And I could see him being a guy who it's like maybe he goes late first round, but he has a big summer league. Like I think I said that to you about
Yeah.
him. Just a like try hard type of guy, like in a good way. But no, I like him. My 17 is Cole Pete. Maybe, start of the year he was the top 10 guy. Everyone's hanging on to that Florida debut he had. Big time game where he gets a dunk, a block, and a dunk all in one possession. Huge stuff. Really like Cole Pete, but at the same time, I don't know if I see him with as high of a ceiling as maybe some people that would, considering him as a lottery pick. I think he plays with a lot of energy, and you can't deny that size and the skills he has and athleticism for his having, like a bigger body frame. Um, he hasn't kept up that dominance all year in every game for me to keep him as high as maybe he once was. But I still respect him as a prospect. So my 17's Kobe.
I see where you're saying. I'm a little bit higher on him. To kind of talk more about Kobe, it's more of just like his athletic presence down low. If you put him with a good playmaking guard, he can just somebody that can just thrive in the dunker spot all game long and play with his athleticism and strength down low in the league. To where I think he's going to be a big fit guy, because if you put him on a team with some really good playmakers, he's a guy that I think would fit perfectly in Charlotte, depending on what they want to do with Miles Bridges. Obviously, Miles Bridges is more of a shot creator, can create more for himself, obviously, but the athleticism and just being able to play off guys like Khan and LaMelo and the spacing and the way they're playing over there, I think could be super, super vital for him. Just being able to play and be an athletic rim guy, just they can just pretty much just finish anywhere around the bucket. That's one thing he can
I
do.
like that.
Like anytime it's offense, he's a big putback offensive rebound guy. Like those are things that win teams NBA games night in, night out, is just somebody that can grab offensive rebounds and just get buckets that way. Somebody that you don't need to run plays for, somebody that you can just let play throughout the flow of the game. And now I think the next step of his game is getting the consistent three ball, being able to space a little bit more. But I think right away, he's somebody that can be a monster on the offensive glass right away.
Yeah.
But yep. I do see the ceiling with him kind of being up and down, because it's if he develops the shot and everything else like that. Because I don't see him being any kind of big time creator at all, really. But I think his energy and his ability to dominate the glass is something that is big time for him.
No, yeah, and having that type of energy with the stuff he brings is definitely worthy of earning a role. I more just question the star upside. I guess that's really all.
Right. And then I can get into 16, which is a guy you like, another Baylor guy. You're probably higher on him than I am. I have Cameron Carr.
Yes.
Kind of just the weird thing, I'm glad you brought up the Baylor thing, is just because, like, I think we look at kind of like the comparison of Dylan Harper, Ace Bailey kind of thing, where it's like, obviously two guys that were top 3 all year. I look at Baylor or Rutgers way different in terms of just looking at a program, because Baylor's like a team that's won national championships like recently. Like they're a team that is a tournament threat every year. Like they're just a higher class. Yeah, like you shouldn't be in the mud. Yeah. Like you have the resources to be good. But getting into Cameron Carr, he's somebody I comp as like a mix of like Devin Vassell, Trey Murphy, with his size and ability to shoot. He's somebody else that I feel like could have a dominant summer league. Like I think both these guys could have really, really good summer leagues, just because they didn't have like the tournament run, because they didn't make the tournament or whatever. Like they didn't have the deep kind of tournament run to kind of, so where they go into summer league and just kill. And he's somebody that is, with his size and his defensive potential, I don't think he's that level of defender yet, but he has the ability to be a really good defender, has good athleticism. That's why I kind of rock him to kind of Trey Murphy, is just because Trey Murphy has really good athleticism and getting downhill. It's just kind of the way they play. He's somebody that can play the 2, 3, or the 4 in my eyes. He needs to put on a little bit more size, but in his fit, where I see him, I think he's the perfect wing that every NBA team is looking for. Somebody that has good size, can play defense, and just shoot the piss out the ball and play off ball. And I think he's somebody that can even add a little bit more on the shot creation side too, in terms of like a Devin Vassell, Trey Murphy realms, where I think at his size, he has a lot of upside in this class.
I'll tell you what, he's at 12 for me, and my goodness, are you speaking my language with Devin Vassell and Trey Murphy? I mean, it doesn't get much better for that to my ears than those two guys. I mean, those are some of my guys right there, and that's why I like Cameron Carr. I mean, he's just the prototypical player that I would like in an NBA draft. Like you can never get I will always take an athletic guy who can hit the three, get hot. Just a guy who, I mean, he has a high ceiling to me, and I think that even if he doesn't get there, he could still bring a spark to your team in some way throughout his career, and that's why I like him. He's just really fun to watch too, honestly. So I'm really high on him. I was just kind of doing a joke about the Vassell and Trey Murphy thing because I'm not saying he's gonna be, you know, guaranteed Trey Murphy good. Like Trey Murphy's really, really good. I was high on Trey Murphy coming out as well. Trey Murphy also has like, you know, a little bit more size. He's like 6'10", which is crazy, 6'9". But no, I love Cameron Carr. That Baylor thing, I'll say it again. Just you wish that he was playing winning basketball. Like it just would make you feel a lot better about him as a prospect. But sometimes you just can't let it get in your head. There's some guys it just doesn't matter for. They work out in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then I had Jaden Quintance. We already talked about him at my 16.
So getting into my 15 to kind of wrap up my part one of this big board, I have Bennett Sturts. Love what you said about him earlier. I see a lot of Ty Jerome, Malcolm Brogdon, kind of that older guard coming out of college that is just very good with the ball in his hands, can operate in the pick and roll. He might not be the defender of like Malcolm Brogdon, but like he's just somebody that, depending on what he does in the tournament, I don't know how much his stock is going to kind of go up or down because he is that older guard. But I think we know what you're getting with Bennett Sturts. He's somebody that can be a backup point guard right now in the league with his ability to operate the pick and roll and just run the show at the point guard position. He's older, ready, can shoot it, has sneaky athleticism, can throw it down on you if you're not prepared for it. Like he's somebody that is just a gamer in my eyes. Like he is just somebody that is just so skilled at the point guard spot. And he's not like some crazy undersized guard that is older as well. So he's got size to him at the point guard position. So I think I'm really solid on Bennett Sturts. I think he could just be a perfect fit for like a team like Denver, like in my eyes, because they, I think, could use a backup facilitator outside of Jokic and Murray that can just play within the system.
Bro, I'll say about him one last thing too. Like Bennett Sturts never gets sped up. He always keeps so much poise as he's playing. He's a strong college player for sure, and he's always able to just play at his speed, and that's a good sign. If whenever an older guard, especially, you expect that out of him. I like that you're that high on him. I think I could see it, bro. I could see myself getting talked into him being over a Pete, over a Quintance, and over even a guy I have at my 15, Braylon Mullins, who I talked about earlier. But I like how high you are on Ben Sturts.
He's somebody I wish was like a sophomore right now.
No.
And he transferred to Iowa when he was a sophomore and had 2 more years.
It's his first year of power conference basketball too. That's what's cool about it, because it feels like he is, because he was at Drake last year, so it's like he is a late bloomer. Technically, he's not like he's a late bloomer. He's still getting better. It doesn't mean he's at what he's at right now. That's like sometimes I feel like you got to look into that too. Like, okay, yeah, bro, like a Zach Edey who's 7'5" as a sophomore is going to do pretty much what he does as a senior. He's just going to be what he was as a senior in the NBA. He's not going to get much better. But, a guy comes out of like a JUCO or a D2 or something like a Sturts or like shit. Like, I don't know. I just like late bloomers. I feel like there's something to be said about a late bloomer, that you can kind of ignore the age a little more if they just started getting good.
Mm-hmm. But that is the end of part 1. 25 to 15. Part 2 will be 14 to 1 in our big board, and we will get to those prospects in the next episode. Thank you guys for tuning into the Barrel Talk podcast. This is part 1. Be on the lookout for part 2 of our NBA big board.